Let's bring in one of the organizers of yesterday's protest and the protests throughout this process, Bill McKibben. Bill, good to talk to you again.
Good to be with you as always, Keith.
Have you got them on the run, do you think?
Well, you know, 6 months ago it was 100 to 1 against us. Those odds have narrowed a lot. The oil companies still have more money than God. But after yesterday, this has become the biggest environmental and really the biggest political flashpoint that Obama's got to deal with. And there's at least some signs that they're paying attention now.
Is there an indication that the president himself is paying attention and may in fact have stepped in the State Department to get to at least put in this? Obviously, it's justified because if there was contact between the lobbyists and representatives of our government in Canada that was inappropriate, there should be an investigation. But the investigation by itself slows the process down for a certain period of months. Is there any suggestion that the president has heard this directly and got involved, or would we even know that?
We wouldn't know. Much credit to Bernie Sanders for being the guy who really pushed forward, and Representative Steve Cohen, who spoke at yesterday's rally. I think what's going on is they're beginning to realize this is their base. The people who elected them last time, there were college kids descending from around the East Coast on buses yesterday. They're the ones who were lined up around dorm rooms, you know, 3 deep, waiting to vote in 2008. Now they're lined up around the White House 3 deep. Not angry exactly, saying, we want that Obama from 2008, the one who said, I'm going to be the guy that ends the tyranny of oil. In my administration, the rise of the oceans will begin to slow. We know some of the time Congress has gotten in his way, but not this time. He's got an absolutely clear shot. 20-foot jumper, top of the key. Will he square up and take it?
Other than the sort of extra halftime that it provided, to continue the analogy, what do you think the meaning is of that State Department special investigation of itself?
I think it means that the process was so crooked and inept that they had no choice but to investigate. There was a story that came out last week saying that basically one 20-something employee had been the only person assigned by the State Department to do this. I mean, you can't get a permit for a strip mall in the most environmentally lax state in the union with that kind of review. If we're going to do environmental impact statements that way, we might as well just sort of assign them to random junior high school civics classes. It was terrible. That's only half the battle, though. The process is wrong-headed, but that's the least part of this. It's the substance that in the end is the real problem. This tar sands in Alberta is the second largest pool of carbon on Earth. Only the oil fields of Saudi Arabia are larger. When we plumbed the oil fields in Saudi Arabia, we didn't know about climate change. Now that we do, if we just repeat the same thing, then we're idiots. And that's why Jim Hansen, our foremost climatologist, said, tap this stuff heavily, and it's game over for the climate. As bad as the process is, it's that reality that's the real trouble here.
And by the way, I think turning it over to junior high school civics classes would be an improvement from the federal government under almost all circumstances. Last point, the company's job creation estimate has dropped from 20,000 to 13,000 to 6,500, or was it 6,500 all along and they just padded it with this 1 year, 1 job nonsense?
Well, here's the most amazing part of this thing. The only study not funded by TransCanada, funded by a labor think tank, as it turns out, shows that the plan will kill as many jobs as it'll create because it's going to raise gas prices across the Midwest. For weeks now, reporters, lazy reporters, have repeated this jobs versus the environment theme. Now that the Washington Post has done that excellent story and made it clear that even those job numbers that they're talking about are just crazy. They depend on things like this pipeline motivating modern dance companies to move from New York out to Nebraska and set up shop there. I mean, the whole thing is just as crazy as can be. We'll see if it's enough to kind of break the reporting out of this lazy, tired theme. The only place we've really got jobs, and there are millions of them, is when we decide to go to clean energy, when we start insulating homes and putting solar panels on top, the kind of jobs that those guys who are no longer building McMansions know how to do. That's what we need to do, and we really need the president to step up and get us on that path.